Hey guys, Nubkeks here and welcome back to Heroes of the Storm. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a guide on Medivh. At the moment, he is the lowest win rate hero in the game by a huge margin. He is sitting at a 36% win rate overall in Hero League right now, across all skill levels. Generally, Blizzard aims to balance people between 45 and 55%. They're kind of the extremes to the limits, right? 36%, that's where Medivh is at. It's pretty terrible. However, despite this, I think Medivh is actually still a really strong hero, and I'm going to teach you how to get past that win rate and start actually making him work in this guide, because he is really good. And even at a pro level play, we see a lot of teams like Roll20, formerly Team 8 from North America, or Team Expert in EU, will quite frequently actually pick up this hero and build a comp around him and have Medivh be a huge part of how they push forwards and actually win the game. So how can they make it work, and what does Medivh do well that's not being utilized by people in Hero League? I'm going to break this into two parts. So the first part will be here during the draft. We're going to talk about kind of the where you fit Medivh in and the theory behind him, and then I'll bring you into the gameplay and guide you through the gameplay and the decision-making processes that you're going to go through with Medivh in the game. Well, first things first, here we are in the draft. You can see I'm hovering Medivh. What's going on with that? So Medivh, he basically fits into your team and into the role of the team as the second support type hero. The same sort of spot you'll fill with Tassadar or Tyrande, Zarya, anything like that. He's basically that type of hero that adds a little bit of extra shielding, a bit of utility, a bit of control in the team fights. Also brings some fairly moderate damage as well, but obviously doesn't have, enough protection or healing to be the main healer of your team. You typically then, that's the spot typically reserved for replacing one of your damage dealers. So let's say a relatively standard comp might be a main tank, a bruiser. So a main tank, let's say like Arthas, a bruiser / solo laner like Dehaka, a main range damage dealer like, let's say, a Falstad or a Fala. Main support, something like a Rehgar. Then you have, that last spot. It might be another range damage dealer like a Li Ming. Or alternatively, you could fit in your second support there, right? The Tassadar, the Zarya, or the Medivh. So that's kind of where he fits into a composition, okay? I think Medivh is also quite a map-dependent hero. I think the maps that Medivh will thrive on are based around his big strengths, and his big strengths are, well, what does he bring? He brings immense protection from bursts and from focus fire with the protected status he can give through force of will. He also brings really good vision control thanks to his trait, because he can turn into a raven, fly over the battlefield and just find out where the enemy team is. And then he also brings really good boss control with Leyline Seal. You can open up some real big boss killing capabilities. He also has got nice engage with portals as well. So battlegrounds where you can make use of that are going to be his strengths. I think three great examples. Number one here, Cursed Hollow. Number two, Sky Temple. And then number three would be something like Brax's Holdout, right? Each of those maps has a boss, which is actually pretty important. And Cursed Hollow, you've got two bosses, so the boss control Medivh brings on those is very effective. There's a lot of vision war going on in those maps. Like, you're never quite sure. Let's say in Cursed Hollow, you're not quite sure where the enemy team might be around the tributes. Or let's say, for example, they're trying to stall it out with one or two heroes. If you scout that out with Medivh, that can open you up to forcing the fight and actually securing a tribute for yourself. All that sort of stuff. That's basically where Medivh fits in. So I'd say, maps where vision is really important, where there's lots of different places the enemy team could be. That's why vision is important. You're not exactly sure where they are. There's different things they could go and do. Sky Temple, another example. How many people do they have on this temple? How many people do they have on that one? Can we go and invade this? Are they trying to sneak a boss? All that sort of stuff. Medivh can find that out for you. And then, those maps, you can steal the bosses away at Leyline Seal. It gives you the opportunity to kind of take a boss kind of aggressively, and then you can throw a Leyline in to disengage or to secure that boss while the enemy team is stuck in the Leyline Seal. So that's kind of where he fits in. You can see in this draft, for example, a huge part as well of, I think one of the places where people go wrong with Medivh is that certainly at pro level, something they will massively take advantage of is the engagement potential of Medivh, using the portals to go and pick these aggressive fights. And that's a pretty high level thing that you're asking for, and that's I think that's a lot of the places where people might go wrong with Medivh in Hero League, where you don't have that kind of coordination. I think to make him work, looking at these team comps here, hopefully you can see what I'm talking about here. To make him work in Hero League, I think you do need to build around Force of Will, his protection, very, very much so. So if you look at the enemy team comp here, for example, they've got a lot of single target focus, and we're going to be able to protect our teammates from that by giving them shields and then giving them portals out of there. Tyrande wants to burst someone down with their Hunter's Mark of Vulnerability. Greymane wants to jump in and burst them down. Malf will root them. Diablo can lock people down with his CC, so a single target dives in, locks someone down. They get followed by a Tyrande stun. There's a lot of lockdown, and we can protect them from that. I think that's a huge consideration for picking Medivh in Hero League, is you don't just want to pick him to work well with your team, but you also want to be picking him to counter pick what the enemy's doing as well. So there you go. I think that's probably one of the biggest tips I can give in terms of drafting him. Okay, so here we are in the game. Let's dive into some Medivh gameplay. We've already kind of outlined where you want to fit him in on the team, so let's talk about how he actually works. There's a lot of big skill plays that are open to you on Medivh with his abilities. There's lots of different ways that you can use these. So let's kind of go through them one by one and outline basically what you want to do. Arcane Rift, his Q, this is actually the easiest one to use, though there is complexity built in. So it's a, short to medium range skill shot that does a decent chunk of damage. The big deal with this is that it costs 50 mana and has a 7-second cooldown. However, if you hit a hero, it gives you back the full mana cost, and it also will give 5 seconds off the cooldown. So if you're just hitting a minion wave, for example, it's a 50 mana, 7-second cooldown or a skill shot nuke. If you're hitting heroes, it's a mana-free 2-second cooldown nuke. So basically, the rough rule of thumb with this one is, this will help you be very effective, and I think following this rule of thumb will get you through most of Medivh. Seeing as the rest of his stuff is so difficult, I think you'll get away with just following the rule of thumb as much as you can. And it's basically this, it's very simple. Can I hit a hero? If yes, use your Q. That's basically it. You can see here I made a little mistake, by the way, which is that I kind of panicked and I clicked on the portal, then I clicked again, I actually right clicked on the Greymane and basically attacked Greymane instead of going through the portal. But hey, if that was mechanically better, that could have actually been a really good play right there. You're going to see in this game there's lots of good plays on Medivh and also lots of mistakes, so I thought this would be a really helpful gameplay for you guys, so you can kind of see some of the ways that he works really well, and then also some of the pitfalls that you can fall into. But yeah, basically using your Q. Can I hit a hero? If yes, go for it. That's basically it. You can also use it for a bit of extra wave clear here and there if you can afford the mana and all that sort of stuff, but that rule of thumb will get you through most of the uses for him as you go through these games. W, Force of Will, this is a huge deal. So again, it's 50 mana, 5-second cooldown on this. It's got a pretty decent cast range as well, so bear that in mind. This will protect an allied hero from all damage for 1.5 seconds, which is a really long time. And basically you want to be using this on who the enemy team is going to be focus firing. So if you see, for example, here, there's a bit of a breakdown in communications, right? Which is, well, Falstaff's getting pushed in, okay, by Greymane. Diablo's there as well. So I come up to put a bit of harass here on the Greymane just to try to get some pressure off of that lane. Falstaff sort of misinterpreted that. Would have been a great time for voice comms, right? Because he went in, he thought we were kind of going in to kill the Greymane. I didn't actually want to do that because Diablo was too close. So he went in to kill the Greymane. I give him the shield to myself because in my head I was going, I'm going to come up here. I can use my shield plus my Qs, get some nice harass on Greymane and just take some pressure off Falstad. Falstad said, we're going in hard on Greymane. Medivh is going to shield me and we're going to try to get the kill. And then it almost worked. It ended up being a disaster, but we did both survive. So at least there's that. But that's one of the places where obviously voice communications could be a huge thing and something to watch out for. And it also illustrates, the usefulness of your W and how it can go well or how it can go wrong. But the main deal with Force of Will is that you want to use this to protect the target that is going to be focus fired by the enemy team. So it's kind of the same idea as playing a support, right? You need to have an understanding of, who's going to be the target? Who are they trying to kill? For example, right here, Arthas, he's in a rough spot. He gets CC down. We give him the Force of Will. It actually absorbs 700 damage, which is an awful lot at this point in the game. I mean, bearing in mind that us as Medivh, we have 1,700 health. A 700 damage shield is a very, very effective amount of HP to be saving. And this is basically what that Force of Will does. is it will protect people from that focus fire from being bursted down. So you have to understand, okay, where are people in the team fight? What's the juiciest target on that the enemy wants to pick up? And our team, right there, right? Arthas, again, enemy team, they engage hard. Arthas is the one who's out of position. We give Arthas the shield, and right there, we actually shielded over 1,000 damage on the Arthas and got a lot of damage protected there, which actually probably kept him alive and ultimately made a huge impact in letting us win that team fight, right? So it's understanding what's the target that's going to take the most damage. And much like any sort of shielding hero, really, I mean, Tassadar's a bit different, right? Because his shield gives lifesteal. It's pretty useful either way. But, I mean, there are lots of opportunities where you can kind of flub the shield, you know? You throw out the shield and it doesn't absorb any damage. Well, then it's not being super useful. And, you know, at the same time as well, there's this huge, I think that's one of the big strengths of Medivh, right? Is the sort of utility, which we're going to go into now, talking about like the portals and the vision and everything like that. But utility for Medivh is huge, right? And the utility force of will, for example, in the case of the enemy team, they have to give so much consideration to me as Medivh. And because of that force of will solely alone. So for example, Greymane, normally, hey, someone's out of position, someone gets locked down with CC, this is fantastic. I'm going to jump in and, you know, we're going to burst this person down. Maybe I'll throw in the cursed bullet, or else I'm going to jump in and, you know, use protected. Right there, once again, you know, 1,100 damage protected off the Rhaegar, enough to keep him alive, right? The power of force of will. But that's something that they have to keep considering. For Greymane, if there's no protected, well, he can jump in quite frequently and burst loads of damage and get those kills. But now, poor Greymane in this game, he goes, well, shit, every 5 seconds, Medivh has this force of will, which can completely neutralize my engage. And if I jump in, and if all that burst is prevented by Medivh's force of will, suddenly, instead of, you know, jumping in, getting the kill, and I'm in a great position, I could have jumped in, it all gets absorbed, and I'm in a terrible position. You know, that's kind of one of the big decisions that's kind of going on here. I'd actually point out right there, there's definitely room for better mechanical skills from me on that particular fight, right? I'm kind of in a rush because Greymane has decided to all in on the Falstad, right? So that's definitely the room for actually being quicker at the game, because I could have actually panned my camera up and been ready to cast that force of will on Falstad to keep him alive from Greymane. You could see that, you know, the fight was over before I actually panned my camera up after taking the portal. You could do that a little bit quicker and actually be kind of on point, which could make a difference in some situations. Because again, like I said, force of will got pretty long range on this cast. Okay, third ability, portals. You probably noticed me using these a bit already. So there's a few uses for these. Now, the most complicated and most difficult use, by the way, that was an interesting little interaction there before I talk about the portals with Diablo. So I hit him twice with the Q. He'd been juking to the top. I was like, well, third time he's going to juke to the bottom. Didn't juke to the bottom, and the Q didn't hit him, unfortunately. But yeah, so portals, this is a pretty big deal, right? 20-second cooldown. And we are going to get talents. Well, the talent we're always going to get at level 1 is a portal talent, which is stable portal, which increases the duration by 50%. So by default, it's a 6-second portal. We're going to make it a 9-second portal. Basically, you're going to have this portal up half the time. Once we get level 13, we're going to get quickening, which halves the cooldown of portal. So once we get 13, we can basically have a portal up constantly, right? So, but certainly in the early game, you're only going to have, one portal half the time, right? The way you use this, there's so many opportunities for using portal. This is just this huge ability that has so many little different uses, and you're going to see a few of them in this game. Number one can often be kind of repositioning or flanking during a team fight. You know, you throw this portal from your team into a flank point, maybe a bit off to the side in the back line of the enemy team, and just create a bit of pressure there. Just kind of keep them panic, keep them worried that you guys could go through the portal and do some damage to them. And you can even use this yourself as Medivh. Hop through the portal, throw out your Q, go back through the portal, wait for that cooldown to tick down, then jump in the portal again, throw out the Q and go back. There's obviously a risk to that because people will spot you and collapse upon it. So you're going to have to be quick with your W to keep yourself alive if you are doing that. That's always worth considering, but that's one example of the play that you can make. Another time is, you know, if the enemy team is super out of position, like right there, I was considering in this game, but we are very much ahead in this game, right? So I didn't go for it. But right there, you might have spotted an opportunity for a play, right? Our team was attacking the fort. We flew in behind, right? And then we spotted a few of the enemy teams sort of out there in the lane. I was very much considering at that point throwing out the Leyline Seal, which is a 3-second lockdown on the enemy team, throwing a portal up towards my team, then they follow through and we kind of dive them. I thought that was a very good possible play that could have been made. I decided not to do it in this case because we're so far ahead. I said I don't want to take a big risk here, but that is an example of something that we could have done, you know? So you get behind the enemy team and throw a portal back to your team. Another example is, you know, a teammate is out of position. You throw down a portal for them to retreat through. That's always valuable. This portal is too short, but it does illustrate one way you can use portals. I actually place a few that are too short in this game, which are kind of silly, right? You probably noticed that over the course of the game. I could be using the range more, right? But you can use them to kind of speed up your rotations between lanes and stuff like that, or between bosses. You know, you can use it to hop over walls and just make quicker rotations. For example, you know, on Braxis, you know, hopping between there's lots of walls in Braxis, so you can use it to hop over the walls and just make a quicker rotation between one of the capture points and a merc camp, or a capture point and a boss, all that sort of stuff. It opens up some pretty nice plays in that regard. So yeah, there's definitely a bunch of options with the portal. I'll actually focus now on the gameplay as we move forwards as well, and talk about basically the ways you can use it. Before I go into that, sort of more just gameplay focused stuff as we go into the second half of this game. So you can see we're using our bird here, which gives vision. You're completely invulnerable while you're doing this. You can cancel it by casting a spell, or obviously pressing the Z to dismount. So you can use this to soak XP for free, right? They can't stop you. You can use it to get vision on the enemy team so you know where they are. I suppose just the way to use it usefully for vision is, you know, whenever it's uncertain where the enemy is. So for example, here in Cursed Hollow, I gave the example in the draft. Let's say there's a tribute. We can just pop our bird and move in. This is actually like a good point. I'm going to do a slow-mo replay of that fight later on in the game. So that was pretty interesting. Again, a bit short range on the portal because it's a bit of a panic portal, right? But I'm actually going to slow-mo that particular Leyline Seal at the end. We'll come back to that one because I think that was a really interesting one. But yeah, basically the bird, you want to use it when there's lots of opportunities for where the enemy team might be. This portal here is just for me to get a little bit of poke and a couple extra stacks. I completely miscast that Q. It completely missed, so that was kind of silly. But yeah, that was like a portal just to farm up my Master Touch, which is my level 7 quest. You can see we got 25 out of 30 stacks. We have to hit heroes 30 times with our Q to get away with this. So this right there, that's actually a great example of using Medivh Bird to our advantage. So right, it's kind of a risky play to steal away the Bruiser camp because the enemy team is all nearby and our team is kind of pinging, hey, we should probably go back. Maybe we don't want to do this. But because I'm Medivh, I can hop into bird form. I go and I scout it out. And because I'm giving all that vision, we can see actually they're not close enough to stop us. So it lets us take that Bruiser camp in safety. And then we always have the option to use the portals to get out afterwards as well. So it enables us to make a more aggressive play on the map, kind of do a bit of a risky play. And we have complete knowledge that, hey, the enemy team isn't collapsing, so we're going to be okay. You can see here, again, we're using this vision of our bird, right? There's not too much for us to do on the map. Our team are just clearing up merc camps. So we're able to fly here. And because we're here in the mid lane, we're going to get all the XP from those minions if they die. And we're just keeping vision and tabs on the enemy team to make sure they're going to be okay. So look, hey, we spotted them moving up into the north half of the map. Oh, look. Tyrande Owl spotted out our team. Well, we threw down that portal from that merc camp to our fort. So just in case the enemy team did come in here, try to make a play, try to invade, we knew it was coming, and my teammates had that portal down there, which they can just right click on and they can escape and everything's going to be fine. This is actually turning into a big fight here right in the mid lane. We throw our Leyline Seal, which is our heroic, through the enemy backline because we're doing this flank. Now, I'm getting a little bit nervous here because we're in the back of the enemy team, so we're actually going to flank back up towards the top where Greymane is going ham. Try to put some pressure on him. We get a bit of pressure on him. We also find Malif out of position, so we're able to pick him off. Very nice. Throw down another portal, hop through that, and then we collapse on Tyrande as she's running away, and we actually secure a full team wipe against the enemy team. It ends up being a really good fight for us. So that was kind of an interesting use of Medivh portals, right? And kind of just hopping around the fight and switching. So starting off the fight, we're kind of in the back line, we're hitting the Tyrande, we lock down the back half of the enemy team with the Leyline Seal, we hop back through a portal towards our team. That's the actual range of portals, by the way, which you should be utilizing. So you can see I'm almost casting them at half length a few times in this game, which sometimes is good, sometimes not. But yeah, we portal back towards our team, focused on Greymane, got a bit of pressure on him and then transitioned that into pressure on Malf and then portal back in to put some pressure on Tyrande. It worked out really, really well. That also illustrates, I think, a big part of how you're going to use Leyline Seal, which is the heroic that I think is the best one. So this has half a second cast time, Leyline Seal, and it's a pretty actually wide skill shot. It's wider than you think, actually. And when you hit the heroes with this, it will place them in time stop for 3 seconds. So basically, they're completely invulnerable. They're basically taken out of the game for 3 seconds. Their cooldowns all freeze. They're basically out of it. How do you want to use this? What are the ways you can use it? I mentioned in the draft section of the game one way that you can do, which is we can use it to secure and steal bosses. We actually have loads of boss control, which is why we can take this so aggressively here, by the way. Because we've got Falstad with Mighty Gust and because we've got Medivh with Leyline Seal, we're very free to actually take these bosses. You can see I'm fighting this Greymane. Throw the portal to the left-hand side just to juke out that way, because I know that we're already kind of overrunning the enemy team, and that Greymane focusing me is kind of one of the main threats. So we've got that portal to cover. If he wants to run away through the top left, we can cover him with that portal. And if he decides to try jump on us and kill us, well, we can escape through the portal, just hop back in and pressure him out. So that was a pretty nice portal actually to try to secure that kill. And this is a big, big lead for us. Again, this would be a good portal idea, speed up the rotation away from the boss, but timed it a bit too late. So Leyline Seal, stealing bosses, that's one way to use it. I think there is another, much like with the Q, there is a good rule of thumb with Leyline Seal on what you want to do with this ability, right? A good rule of thumb that just makes it a lot simpler and will ensure that in most cases you're going to use it in an effective way. Maybe not the most effective way, but a pretty effective way. And that is, can I hit 2 to 3 members of the enemy team with this Leyline Seal? If I can, it's often going to be pretty good in a team fight, right? So that's a nice little rule of thumb that you can use to be pretty effective with how you make it work. Why does that work? Well, because you lock down 2 or 3 members of the enemy team, it means that the other 2 or 3 members are isolated, and it buys a few seconds for your team to actually just, burst them down and take them out. It's basically the way that you use VP as well, apart from the fact that VP can also be used a bit more easily to combo stuff and counter things. Right here, this is a pretty sort of big play opportunity. We go through the portal, Leyline Seal to lock the enemy team down, allow our team to get ready here to collapse. Then we hop through the portal again to avoid the damage. And then, blam, our team has gone in. We kind of lock them out, and we're getting great pressure out here. And they are going down pretty quickly. Enemy team is melting. And yeah, there you go. We're going to chase them off with our portal. We were going to kill him with our Qs, but then the Falstad Mighty Gust knocks him away, which is just fine because, we're on the core winning the game, right? But we missed the Q at the end because of that Mighty Gust. But hey, no matter. Going to do some Medivh BM right at the end here as well and throw down this portal and go into bird form. That's the way you got to do it if you got the luxury to do so. But yeah, there you go. There's Medivh. I'm going to cover a few more things, so don't go anywhere, guys. I'm going to give the talent build that you want to use with this guy. It's very cookie cutter, and yeah, then just give a couple more tips that you want to know for how to play him, all right? So coming into the end, we'll check out the stat screen here as well, but I thought that was a really good game where our team was actually very coordinated, and even though they were skeptical, particularly about the Medivh pick in the draft, right, it actually ended up working really well, and I think a big part of that is you could see, I think, that Medivh fit really well against the enemy comp here, just denying their burst. You can see our damage is really good, actually. Our hero damage is quite nice, and denying the enemy burst is very, very useful. So the talent build, let's go through the talent build first, and then I'll give a couple of extra tips on how you want to use his abilities. So at level 1, you do want to go for Stable Portal, which increases the portal duration by 50%, makes it from a 6-second portal to a 9-second portal. It's much more useful. It basically gives you a lot more freedom for using that portal to make plays. Just consider that, a lot of heroes do have CC or lockdown. And if those get chained together, suddenly that 6-second portal, let's say it takes you a couple of seconds before you go through it, boom, you get hit by some CC. You might not have much time left, or if you're displaced a little bit to get back through that portal, that can be a pretty bad news situation. So the extra 3 seconds on the portal does add up to a lot. It opens up a lot more plays. And just, it also makes the pressure that you can create from a portal in the back line last that much longer, right? So it's definitely the best level 1 talent that you want to go for. At level 4, you want to go for Bird's Eye View. This will increase your basic vision while you're a bird by 25%. Sorry for the banging in the background. Puppy going to the toilet out the back. But yeah, you normally have a relatively small vision radius when you are in Raven form, right? Well, Bird's Eye View will increase that by actually a pretty significant amount. That extra 25% really does add up to a lot. And it'll help you spot a lot more things out and make it just much easier to be effective while you're scouting as Medivh. You can also activate this to increase the bonus to 200% extra vision for 5 seconds. You can see me using it in that game, and this is just massively useful, again, around those big moments. For example, in this game, okay, we're going to be trying to take a tribute. Boom, we pop the vision, get huge vision. We can see where the enemy team is coming from, and we can prepare to counter that. Another example was when, okay, we were taking that bruiser camp. It's a bit risky. Pop the big bird's eye view vision. We see the enemy team isn't coming. We can actually continue with this risky play and take out that bruiser camp without any fear of repercussion. Another one would be, well, the enemy team might be doing the boss. Well, boom, pop the vision. We can see they're doing the boss from far away, and then we can plan a big engage with portals or leyline seals and really cash them out in a rough spot. You could see, hopefully in that game, lots of places where actually getting that vision was super impactful, and it essentially focuses in on those times when there's a risky moment happening in the game and you do need to know where the enemy team is, because it will open up counter plays. At level 7, the Master's Touch. This is our talent of choice. This is a quest. You have to hit 30 heroes with Arcane Rift without dying. The reward for this is that it increases the damage of your Q by 75 and also increases the cooldown reduction of hitting a hero by 1 second. This is a massive deal, right? By default, again, if you're hitting heroes with your Arcane Rift, right, it's a 2-second cooldown nuke. Well, an extra second off that means it's a 1 second cooldown. You're halving the cooldown. You're doubling the amount of Qs that you can cast. That's a massive deal. It's a massive, massive damage output increase. Not to mention the fact that there's the flat extra 75 damage, which is pretty decent in itself. So there's definitely a big skill cap to this quest. You definitely have to play safe as Medivh while you're finishing this quest, because it is such a massive increase to your damage output. You do not want to die before you finish this one. You have to play extra safe. But mastering the Master's Touch is super important to mastering Medivh, because it is a huge damage increase. If you're starting out on Medivh and you're really struggling, you can use Arcane Charge instead, which will just increase your next Arcane Rift after you've hit an enemy hero by 30%. It's not as good as the Master's Touch, but it works straight away from level 7. You don't have to finish the quest first, and then it won't lose progress if you die. So that's like a simpler, weaker alternative, but a more consistent one that you can pick up if you're starting out and you're having a lot of trouble with the Master's Touch. Leyline Seal is the heroic of choice, which I covered in the game. Polybomb is really good as well, but to think Leyline Seal is overall better, and that's the one that you want to practice and the one you want to use. At level 13, you want to go for Quickening, which halves your portal cooldown. It just opens up so many more plays. It makes you so much more flexible with your portals. You can use those portals more aggressively, because then you're free to have portals to follow up to escape as well, which is really huge. And you could see in a few of those team fights really using those portals multiple times in multiple ways throughout the fight to really reposition and have a huge impact. So highly recommend you pick up Quickening at 13. At level 16, you're going to go for Reabsorption, which is that your Force of Will, your protected shield you can give, will heal the target for half of the damage it absorbed. This is a massive deal. And again, if you're using your Force of Will correctly to absorb a lot of burst damage, this will give your target a nice big burst heal in the end. And yeah, it's just super, super effective. It can really turn a team fight sometimes even on its own, right? One of your heroes is on 20% HP. They go, oh my god, they're almost dead. Burst them, burst them, burst them. You throw the Force of Will on, all that burst damage hits, and then blam, heals up that hero to 40% HP. Suddenly, instead of having, a 20% HP hero who just got killed, you've got a 40% HP hero very much alive and no longer in kill range. So that can really just swing team fights and make it very difficult for the enemy team to focus in and actually get kills, because targets they thought were easy pickings suddenly get a bunch of health back and are no longer within that kill range. So definitely, I think the best talent at 16 overall there as well. Level 20, we didn't get there in this game, but Medivh Cheats, I think, is the best one overall. Increases the duration of time stop from your Leyline Seal by 33%. So it changes it from a 3-second time stop to a 4-second time stop. Again, the idea here is, well, hey, let's say we catch 3 enemy teammates in it. Well, tough luck for them. We're fighting a 5 versus 2 fight for the next 4 seconds here, which is a pretty long time, actually. It's a surprisingly long time. It's the same duration as a mosh pit, right? It's a really, really, really long time. It really adds up. So that's definitely something that you can make big plays with. The other part of Medivh cheats as well is that you can also redirect the wave when it's active. So you can throw out that initial wave and then change the direction. So this will just make it a little bit easier to catch another hero in that. And that opens up some really big playmaking potential as well. Again, just making it easier basically to land it on multiple heroes, which is what you want to do. Okay, it's what you want to do. And yeah, that is basically the talent build. There are other good options at level 20, which you can go for, but Medivh cheats is going to be the basic one that you'll, generally speaking, be picking up, generally speaking. And that is the talent build for Medivh. It's pretty cookie cutter. There's not much variety to it, okay? It's fairly straightforward, but hopefully that makes it in some ways easier, right? Because he's a complicated hero. You stick with the same talent build every game, cuts down that learning difficulty a little bit, and you'll be effective. And that's Medivh, guys. So again, like the basic summary, right, is using your Arcane Rift, just firing it through heroes. If you can hit a hero, it's gonna work. Using your Force of Will to protect focus fire targets, understanding the team fight. You have to understand the team fight to make Medivh work. If you don't understand how team fights flow, you're not gonna succeed on this hero, all right? You need to, again, it's going to work well too if you play a lot of different roles, because you'll understand, well, okay, this is who the damage dealers are going to focus. This is who the tanks are focusing. These are what are the juicy targets for the enemy team. That's basically what you need to think of, is who does the enemy team want to kill here? Okay, I'm ready. Aha, they're going in on them. Force of Will. And as you saw in the gameplay, sometimes you can prevent, 1,000 damage, even in the early game, right? Which is more than half of some heroes' HP bars. You can prevent all of that damage with a really good Force of Will. Portals for engaging, for disengaging, and moving around the team fight. Leyline Seal. Again, the rough rule of thumb is to lock down maybe 2 or 3 heroes. There are other sort of ways you can use it, more complicated. For example, catching the enemy team out of position. You can lock them down long enough for your team to get near and to actually then collapse on them when they're out of position. You can also use it to interrupt some things like mosh pits. That's going to be unusual though. You can use it to combo certain abilities like Apocalypse, kind of like you do with a Void Prison, but that is more difficult. It's going to be more useful against heroes like clumped up teams, so you can consider that in those situations, but in situations where the enemy team is going to be fairly spread out, you're normally going to be looking to be splitting the team in half rather than to, kind of clump them all up inside one Leyline Seal and then burst them down, right? One of the interesting things about Leyline 2 is that unlike Void Prison, which kind of lets everyone go at once, Leyline Seal, it's a skill shot that travels in a line. So let's say you hit Sonya at the start of it, you hit Tyrande at the end of it, Sonya's going to come out a second or two before the Tyrande comes out of the time stop. So that can kind of naturally make your team sort of focus fire on different heroes, right? Because they're coming out sort of one by one. So that's definitely one use of it as well. But yeah, there's lots of different ways you can use this. It's very complicated. Rough rule of thumb is to just hit 2 or 3 heroes and split them in half, either hitting the front line or most usually and most frequently hitting kind of the back line, or just splitting the team in half. If you can do that, 8-9 times out of 10, it's going to be a pretty good Leyline Seal. So that will help you be effective in the team fight. And yeah, I mean that's kind of Medivh there. I think that hopefully the gameplay will be good, because I think it illustrated a lot of different uses for his abilities and some of the situations where it went wrong as well. You can probably spotted those while I was talking about the different things as well. You're like, oh yeah, use Force of well here, but use it badly there. So I think it was a really good game to illustrate that, and I hope you enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you did find the guide useful. Hopefully the slow-mo stuff in the background has been useful as well. And I will see you all next time for some more Heroes of the Storm. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.